button. And so we're now recording, and I'll get started with our session. One final check just via the chat. Could somebody just make sure that you can hear me okay? Just drop into the chat and let me know. Thank you very much, John. All right. So we'll hit the show my screen and we're ready to go. So good morning, everybody. My name is Richard Duffy. I am the Vice President of Partner Enablement here at Acumatica. And on behalf of everybody at Acumatica, I'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining us for this, the first lecture in our brand new, newly launched Partner Marketing University. So the Partner Marketing University, well, really, what is this about? Many of you are already joining the Demo University, which, as you know, that runs every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. The Partner Marketing University is going to follow a very, very similar format. The purpose of this is to give us the opportunity to share with you some skills, some training, and some knowledge around the marketing discipline inside an organization. Now, just the same as sales is very, very important, and pre-sales and demo skills are very important. Just bear with me for 1 second, folks. The control panel keeps insisting on popping up, and I'm just trying to figure out why it's doing that. So I'm not quite sure why. I'll just have to keep an eye on that, and as it pops up, I'll just shut it down. I do apologize for that. But anyway, marketing is a very, very critical area, just the same as sales, pre-sales, and demonstration skills are. So no, this is going to drive me mad. So I'm going to just stop this for a second. Just a quick question for those of you who are on the session: are you able to see the control panel popping up there? Okay, great. Thanks, John. So I'm not going to worry about the fact that the control panel's popping up. It's obviously just wants me to be aware that it's there, so I'm going to ignore it. So, oh, no, somebody can see the control panel. Some people can't, some people can. Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to work on the assumption that the majority of you can't, so we're in good shape. So let me start that again. Marketing is an important discipline, the same as sales, pre-sales, and demonstration capabilities. But the most important thing that we need to do, I believe, is we really need to start off by getting the fundamentals right. So what we're going to do in today's Partner Marketing University, and probably for around about the next 7 sessions, is we are going to focus on the fundamentals. Now, how is the agenda going to run? Well, what I'm going to do is each week, I'm going to focus primarily on strategy, but then I'm going to introduce what I like to call the tactic du jour, or tactic of the day. So each Marketing University session, which will occur every other Thursday at this time, I am going to introduce you to a very specific marketing tactic that we have run. Usually it'll be something that I've either run before with an Acumatica partner, or something that I've been involved in running that has worked particularly well in my previous incarnations at some of the other organizations I've worked at, like SAP, Microsoft, or even running my own partner organization. So let's make sure that we all understand what our fundamentals are. So I want to start off with the definition of marketing. Now, some of you may be familiar with this. Some of you may have heard me talk about this before. But for the majority of you, one of two things will be applicable. Either you haven't heard, or you're a subscriber to the idea that repetition is the mother of understanding. So I want to make sure that we all do understand this. So let's give it one more shot. The definition of marketing that I would like you to work with and keep in mind for the rest of the time that we're working together as Acumatica partners, the definition of marketing is getting people with a need for your product or service to know, like, and trust you. Now, that's all nice. You might be sitting there going, okay, well, hang on. If I want people to know, like, and trust me, I'll join a club. Well, this is really about one thing. It's about getting them to know, like, and trust you so that they try what you have to offer, buy from you, repeat buy, and then, of course, refer other organizations to you. So that's really our full definition. So let me give it to you again. Marketing is getting people with a need for your product or service to know, like, and trust you so that they try, buy, repeat buy, and refer others to you. So why is that a great definition of what marketing is? Well, I think it's a great definition because encapsulated in that is everything about the strategy that you need to build. And then encapsulated inside that as well is a framework that gives you the ability to understand what tactics you need to execute, what assets you need to build to help you in your marketing activities, and then how you need to execute those marketing tactics utilizing the assets that you've built. So over our time together, I'm going to take you through each one of these things, and it's up to you to make sure you let me know if we're achieving that goal of helping you understand how all those things come together, or if we need to adjust and adapt. So your feedback is going to be very, very important in this process. So why is know, like, and trust so important? Well, these are some statistics that were put together by Nielsen Global. They did a trust in advertising survey in the Q3 of 2011. And you can see the most highly rated in terms of trust is recommendations from people that people know. The second one is consumer opinions posted online. The third is branded websites. And the fourth is online advertising. So really, you need to focus on getting people to be able to recommend your organization. So that's where we talk about that final point in our marketing piece. Remember, getting people to know, like, and trust you so that they try, buy, repeat buy, and refer others to you. So getting to the point where people are giving you referrals, that's when you've hit nirvana. But you need to do that in a very structured way. And the good news is, in these sessions as part of the Marketing University, I'm going to take you through a process for doing that. So you can see trust is critical in all of these different areas. So this is why I really like the idea and this definition that marketing is all about know, like, and trust. So then people go, well, that's great, Richard. Yep, I see that. You've quoted some statistics at me. But you know what? One of our big challenges is that we don't have anybody who's a marketing expert in our organization. We don't have a marketing graduate, or maybe we do have a marketing graduate, but they're just fresh out of college and they don't have years and years of experience. And we we're struggling. We're thinking, how are we going to make this happen? Well, the good news is that marketing, I believe, is a system. Think about what it is that we sell today. Enterprise resource planning. What is enterprise resource planning? Enterprise resource planning is a system, because what is a system? A system is a series of predefined steps executed in a structured and prescribed way that delivers a specific result. So ERP, series of prescribed steps, delivers a specific result, okay, that you know whether or not you're making money or you're losing money, all right? Well, why can't marketing be the same thing? Why can't marketing be a series of predefined steps that you go through to get the end result? Well, the good news is it can be. So that's what makes marketing qualify as a system. So there are, like any good system, there are a number of different steps that you need to take as part of that system. And the first one, the most important one of all of these, is the idea that you need to understand that You need to have a strategy before you start executing tactics. Somebody came up to me the other day and they said, "Oh, Richard, we want to do Google AdWords. What are the AdWords that you recommend that we should go out and buy and run an AdWords campaign?" Well, that was a classic example of where I could have just said, well, go out and buy these 20 words. Here's 20 words that have worked well for us. Well, maybe they've worked well for us because they align to our strategy. But I could have given those 20 words to this person and they could go out and start buying Google AdWords with those 20 words and it might not have worked. It might not have got them the results that they were looking for. Why? Because I didn't know what their strategy was. I didn't know whether or not those were the right words to attract the kind of customers that they were looking for. So we're all action-oriented individuals. I think that's fair to say. We all want to get stuff done. Matter of fact, Getting Things Done, very good book. If you struggle with just that topic, Getting Things Done, I'd highly recommend that book, Getting Things Done. And also Evernote is a great tool for helping you manage the process of getting things done. Now, of course, if you've signed up to the marketing toolkit or the sales toolkit, you're already using Evernote. So you're part of the way there. But anyway, we're all action-oriented individuals. We want to get things done. So we tend to focus on being tactical. What can I do? But I got to tell you, the most important thing that you can do in any marketing exercise is making sure you've got a strategy first. Sun Tzu, the Chinese philosopher warrior, wrote the book The Art of War, said, "Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat." So, you can be executing all these great tactics, but they could be totally wrong. You could have somebody that you know who said, "Oh, I executed this great tactic in my business and it really set my market on fire. It was the best thing I ever did." You take that, you go and run it, and it's a dismal failure. And you sit there scratching your head going, why? It worked so well for them. Or maybe it worked well for them because it was aligned to their strategy, but it's not really aligned to your strategy. So, strategy before tactics, incredibly important. And if you reach out to me for assistance here at Acumatica, or any one of our channel managers for assistance in your marketing, you know what? It might annoy the hell out of you, but the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to have a discussion with you to try and understand what your strategy is. All right? Because without that, we could just throw a whole bunch of tactics at you. They won't work. And what are you going to do? You're going to come back and you say, "Acumatica, we did the things you told us to do and they didn't work." Well, it might not have been they didn't work because they were bad things. They were just the wrong things for you. All right? Enough on that point. The second thing that you need to do when you're building your systematic approach to marketing is you need to fill your marketing hourglass. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about this. And for those of you who were with us at the recent summit that we held in Broomfield, Colorado, you might have seen me during my keynote presentation brandishing a picture of the marketing hourglass. We're going to go through it again and we're going to talk about that. But what the marketing hourglass does is it has a series of pieces of content and execution tactics that you need that move people through the process of know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer. The great thing about it is it gives you a very specific, very prescriptive way of mapping those things out. So every time you're about to build some kind of marketing content, every time you're about to execute some kind of marketing campaign, you can ask yourself the question, where does this map into my marketing hourglass? Is this related to getting people to know us? Is it relating to getting them to like us, getting them to trust us? Is it related to what happens when they go through the try process, through the buying process? Is it related to how I'm going to run a referral program? All right, so hopefully that makes sense for you. The third thing, and I cannot stress this enough, you need to start publishing educational content. Your prospects are more educated now than ever before. They are smart. They are well informed and they're looking for more information. I don't know if you're aware of this, but if you think about the entire length of time that a prospective customer is going through a purchasing process, the first 60% is usually done on their own without them making contact with somebody like you or I. What are they doing? They're out there doing their research. They're asking their friends. They're looking on the internet. They're reading documentation. They're watching demos on the web. They're really starting to try and educate themselves as much as possible. And they can do that now because of the beauty of the internet. All right? The internet and Google makes everyone an expert. So if you want to make sure you're getting in front of those people early enough in the purchasing cycle for them so that you are considered early and often as a potential supplier, then you need to make sure you are building and publishing unique, useful, educational content that people can find, all right? That positions you and your organization as an expert so that when the customer says, you know what, it's time to pick up the phone and ring somebody, who are they going to call? Well, they're going to call you. All right? The next step that you need to do is you need to make sure that you have created a total web presence. Not to put too fine a point on it. Everybody these days, and it doesn't matter whether you're in the United States or you're in Nigeria, or you're in Kenya, or you're in the Philippines, or Cambodia, or Alaska, or Russia. Everybody lives on the web these days. It's just they use different devices. In developing countries, the most popular device for people to use to access the web is a mobile device. It's not that they don't have internet access. They do. It's just that they don't have cable. They don't have all of those kinds of things that make utilizing a PC the device of choice. They use their mobile devices. So they're all out there on the web. So you need to have a single digital hub where you can drive all of your traffic to. Now, that's your website. But supporting your website is you need to have a whole range of different components. You need to be out on social media. And the social media you choose to be out on is going to be determined by what? It's going to be determined by your strategy. And the first thing you're going to do as part of your strategy is you're going to decide, who is my ideal customer? What do they look like? Where do they hang out? Do they hang out on Facebook? Do they hang out on LinkedIn? Do they hang out on YouTube? Where do they go? If they're looking for a company like mine, what do they type in when they go looking? All right? So you have to have that digital hub. And of course, the good news is everything that we're doing in Acumatica, from a marketing programs and a marketing systems approach, is really designed to align with every single one of these things that I'm talking to you about. So for example, if you go to www.customtwit.com/Acumatica, crazy name, I know, custom twit. It's easy to remember. www.customtwit.com/Acumatica, you'll see that we've partnered with an organization to help you build that total web presence and make that easy for you to go down that path. So then what's the next step? Well, you need to use a lead generation trio. Now, I'm going through all of these, and there's a lot of things here. This isn't like a show up and throw up, oh, gee, I just need to go to Richard's one session today and I'll know everything I need to know to be effective. This is really just setting the framework, as I said, getting the fundamentals right, getting us all on the same level so that we all understand what the basics are. I'm going to go through each one of these things over the next 7, 8, 9, 10 and ongoing sessions, because the great thing about this is learning never stops. I never stop learning. I got to tell you, just in the last 3 months, as we've been building our own new website, which you'll see very, very soon for acumatica.com, as well as a new website for the Acumatica Developer Network and the Partner Portal. I've learned so much that I didn't know about search engine optimization, search engine marketing, around website design, a whole range of different things. So the great thing here is learning never stops, and I will make it my mission in life to continue to share what I learn as I go along the way. And hopefully your feedback will be that it's useful, and if it's not useful, hopefully you'll give me that feedback as well, so I can focus on delivering what you want rather than what I think is interesting on any particular point in time. But anyway, lead generation trio. What's your lead generation trio? Well, your lead generation trio is advertising, public relations, and referrals. Now, if you're thinking, hang on, advertising, public relations, and referrals, I know what that is. Advertising, that's like putting out advertisements in the newspaper or on radio or banner ads or whatever. So I know what that is. That's fine. Public relations, yeah, that's sending out press releases and stuff like that. So I know what that is. And referrals, well, that's just asking people for referrals. Well, actually, no. I use those three buckets to define these processes, but they are very, very detailed. Advertising consists of so many different things. Public relations. Your website is all about public relations because it is the mechanism by which you communicate with the public. Press releases are one component of your public relations strategy, but about that much, a tiny little piece out of a big chunk, right? But it's a great way of thinking about those three. All right. So that's your lead generation trio. So we're going to talk about that in more detail. We want to talk about your sales process. Those of you who attended my selling training at the summit will know that we talked about the idea of that selling is a system too. And in order for that to work, all you have to do is you have to understand how your customer buys, understand their process, their systematic process that they go through when they buy, and then you have to map what you do to that systematic process. So we're going to talk about that in a lot more detail. And because there are so many things that you need to do, one of the things you're going to need to do is you're going to need to live by the calendar. So hopefully all of that makes sense for you. And hopefully you're all sitting there saying, well, that sounds great. This is exactly what I need to learn. Now, just quickly, I can see there's a hand up in the session. So just want to make sure I check the chat to see if anybody's asking a question. Nope, nobody's asking a question. I think Penelope, you've got your hand up. So why don't I just quickly, I'm going to unmute you, Penelope. Did you want to ask a question? Let's go and have a look here, and we'll unmute you for a second. Did you want to ask a question?
Sorry. No, it wasn't a question. I guess because I'm an accountant, it's like little things bother you. The first screen, that 92%, shouldn't the orange be like over to the 92%, or did I miss something?
Okay, so
like on your very first, like on your first screen to the presentation, not your introduction, that said referral. And
in terms of the scaling, it wasn't scaled to the 92%. It just said 90%.
Yeah, it's only you scaled it to 50, right? So is there does that doesn't correlate, I guess, to me. So
yep, okay, I understand. So good feedback on making sure that that the visuals align exactly to what I'm talking about. So thank you.
Okay, sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Feedback is important, and for everybody else who's on the sessions, the feedback doesn't have to just be. I'm going to put you back on mute, Penelope. So. Okay. The feedback doesn't just have to be about, the details of the content or what I'm talking about. It can be like little things like that, things that help you better identify and engage with the materials. Because those of you will know who have done demo to win training or came to the pre-sales section of the training, one of the things we talked about is that what you do and say can either support your message or it can detract from it. Anything you do that detracts from it is a demo crime. So, for example, that might be an example of what we call the widget syndrome. So I say 92%, but the bar actually only looks like 50%. So your brain has a fundamental conflict. Hang on, is it 92 or 50%? If it's 92%, why aren't you showing it as being 92%? So good feedback, important to understand. So, all right. So then let's talk about strategy before tactics. And you'll hear me go on and on and on about this all the time. And as I said, if you come to either myself or one of our partner account managers for help with marketing, the first conversation we're going to want to have is, what is your strategy? What are you trying to achieve? And there's some very, very specific things that you need to do in order to determine your strategy. The first one, and the most important one of all of these, is you need to define your ideal customer. What do they look like? Unless you know who you're targeting, then you can't do anything successfully. You cannot build the right campaign. You cannot execute the right campaign with the right tactics. You might say, you know what, we're going to do webinars, but it just so happens that your ideal customer doesn't attend webinars. Or you might say, we're going to do a direct mail campaign. It might be that your ideal customer doesn't respond well to direct mail campaigns. But you don't know. You don't know that because you haven't spent time thinking about what your ideal customer is. What do they look like? How do they think? Where do they go for information? What associations do they belong to? You might schedule to attend a trade show, and you're there for 3 days of that trade show, dutifully manning your booth every day, and nobody wants to talk to you. Well, it could well be that people in that industry aren't interested in what you have to sell. It's not a key issue for them. So does that make them your ideal customer? Well, maybe not. Maybe they still are your ideal customer, but when they go to those events, they're not interested in learning about enterprise resource planning software. Maybe what you have to do is change the way that you appeal to them when you're at those events. All right. So, but the first thing you have to do, and by the way, this isn't easy. Nobody said this was going to be easy, I guess. If you want to do something easy, then, actually, I'm trying to think, are there any jobs in this world these days that are easy? No, I can't think of any. Maybe sitting behind the console at a gas station. But even that's not easy because occasionally you got people come in who want to talk to you, which really you wouldn't be bothered giving them the time of day. But anyway, I digress. Marketing isn't easy. There are so many things that you have to think about. But anything that's worth doing is usually difficult, and it's worth doing it well. I got plenty more platitudes where that one came from, but I just want to make it clear there is no silver bullet here. And as we go through these things, these are going to be based on common sense. I'm going to take you through some of these things, and you might even be sitting there right now going, well, duh, or as Homer Simpson would say, oh. It could well be that you're going, yeah, well, I already know that. Well, let me ask you the question. Can you give me a definition of what your ideal customer looks like, down to the level that when at the end of that definition, I know exactly what that customer looks like. So when I'm speaking to somebody, I know, you would be the ideal kind of customer for such and such a partner, or you would be the ideal customer for this partner, or whatever the case may be. That's where you're trying to get to. And that's going to be important when you start building a referral program, because you have to be able to explain to people who are going to refer customers to you what it is that you're looking for. Because there's nothing worse than getting a referral of somebody that you just can't help because they're just not in your target market. Now, whose fault is it when that happens? The person referring them to you or your fault? Well, if you're going to apportion blame, it's probably your fault because you didn't help the person giving you the referral to know what the right kind of customer was that you wanted to have referred to you. Okay? So this ties into so many things that you're going to do. You cannot build a marketing campaign unless you know who your ideal customer is, right? What do they care about? What are the business pain points that they're struggling with at any given point in time? What are the results that they're looking for, and so on? So very important, defining your ideal customer. Now, here's a little bit of a guideline of what I mean when I talk about ideal. So we're now talking about the big picture. We're talking about the ideal customer over the life of the customer versus the ideal transaction. All right. So hopefully, if you subscribe to the know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, buy, and refer others story, what we're talking about here is that it's really about the entire life cycle that they have as a customer. So I would say there is something that you do for that kind of customer that's valuable for them. So they value what it is that makes you different. They value what it is that you do that only you can deliver, that nobody else can. Important point to note is that they should be profitable for you. We've all got our fair share of unprofitable customers who we keep on. I think there's maybe, certainly I know when I was running my own partner business, I had 2 or 3 customers who I never made any money from. Okay, I was break even, or actually worse, I was running those customers at a loss. Why did I keep working with them? Because these were the guys who I could pick up the phone and say, hey, could I bring somebody there for a site visit? Would you mind taking a phone call from a potential customer? I'm thinking about doing such and such. And I could run ideas past them and they would give me honest, valuable feedback. So they don't all have to be profitable, but I would hazard a guess and say you really can't have more than about 5%, if that, of your customer base that aren't at least break even. Okay? So another definition of what's an ideal customer is an ideal customer already refers other customers to you. So then if you're thinking, okay, what's the purpose of all of this? What you can now do is you can look at your customer base and you can say, okay, thinking about my existing customers, which of these customers actually does value what we provide? Which of these existing customers is actually profitable for us? Which of these existing customers already refers business to us? Which ones are the kind of customers we want to have for life? So if you're able to identify those 4 things, because they are very much subjective, apart from the profitability piece, they're very much subjective measures. If you can identify a group of those core customers that match that, then you can start drilling down and looking at the things that are objective. All right? What is it about these specific customers who I've said they're ideal? What are the characteristics of these specific customers that I can now start to map out so that when I want to find more customers just like them, if they're ideal, well, if I want to find more customers just like them, what are the characteristics that I'm looking for? Okay? So that's an important first step. And understanding this definition of what is ideal is important. So a great way of looking at this is we all love quadrants. We all love grids, right? Take a view of your customers and map them out on this kind of grid. So you've got those customers who are profitable but don't necessarily refer to you. So you map them up in the top left-hand corner. You've got those customers who refer but aren't necessarily that profitable. So you map them in the bottom right. So what are you looking for? You're looking for those people who map up into the top right-hand corner. And then you're going to ask yourself that question I was just talking about, which is, what are the common characteristics of your most profitable customers who are sitting up in that top right-hand corner that also refer your business to their friends, neighbors, and colleagues? Now, when you might be saying, okay, Richard, yeah, that's all good, but what do you mean characteristics? What are the characteristics that you're referring to? Well, the characteristics can really be mapped out into what we call a persona. And this is a way of describing that customer. Now, in business to consumer, this is really kind of interesting. It's kind of easy. Consumer packaged goods companies like Unilever or Procter & Gamble, their marketing teams are great at this. They target their customers so effectively. They build these buyer personas that they even give them names. And they even have little, full-size cardboard cutouts of these people. And when they're sitting there doing a product planning or a product marketing discussion, they keep those cardboard cutouts in the room with them so that it constantly reminds them, this is who our ideal customer is. This is who we're designing our product for. This is who we are targeting our marketing campaign at. This might be John. John is, how old does John look? John looks, maybe he's about 26, I would say. John is 26. He is a professional. He has a university degree. His average income is this. He belongs to at least 2 or 3 associations. He likes to take care of his physical fitness and so on and so forth. So these are the characteristics that we're looking at. Now, that's great if you're selling to people. Well, what if you're selling to businesses? What if you're selling to a business? Well, when you're selling to that business, you are fundamentally trying to determine what are the characteristics of that business as well. And businesses do have characteristics, things like demographics, geographics, psychographics, and behavior. We'll talk about those, but don't forget, businesses are made up of people. Who makes the business doesn't decide to buy your product or service. The people inside the business do. So you need to start thinking about the personas of the people who make those decisions. Who are the people inside an organization who make the buying decision about your product or service? Is it the CIO? Is it the CEO? Is it the CFO? Is it the warehouse manager? Is it the accounts person? Which of these people are there? And then you need to start understanding the way they think, act, what's important to them, so that when you go executing a marketing campaign, you execute a campaign that has the highest chances of being successful. You don't want to end up being like the dentist who thinks it's time to run a marketing campaign which consists of calling down to all their existing customers and saying, would you like root canal therapy? Well, nobody wants root canal therapy. And you know what? Replacing your ERP product is a little bit like root canal, okay? Maybe not necessarily as painful, but sometimes it can be, but just as attractive. So if you're running marketing campaigns right now, which are based on the concept of would you like to replace your current ERP system, I respectfully suggest you stop, because nobody wants to replace their current ERP system. They want to solve a particular problem that they can't solve with their current solution. Your job is to understand what that problem is and explain better than anybody else why you are the right people to solve that problem and why your product, our product, is the right product to help you solve that problem for that customer. So that's the idea behind these personas. It's an ideal customer profile. It's enough of a picture that gives me the ability to say, yes, that is your ideal customer. I can clearly identify them. And importantly, gives me the ability to go out and potentially buy a list of those people. Some people say, well, our ideal customer are people with money, people who are ready to sign a purchase order. Go to any list broker and try and find a list where that's one of the characteristics. Okay? People with money. Well, maybe annual revenue might be a way of flagging people with money, but are they willing to spend that money on your product or service? Are they willing to spend that money on solving the problem that you're going to solve for them? Well, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But again, you have to start looking at this and have to start thinking about it. And then look at that person and say, what is it about them that makes them ideal? They have a particular pain point that we have a really great solution for. This is an important thing you need to start thinking about. Because here's the thing. When you're doing your lead generation and you are generating leads and somebody comes onto your website and they fill in a form, or you've got a telemarketing person and they're on the phone to this particular company. A lot of people use this way of qualifying called BANT, B-A-N-T. All right. Do they have budget? Do they have authority? Do they have a need? And is there an identified time frame? People look at those four and go, yep, I've got answers to all of those. So then I can score the lead. I can rate it and rank it. But you know what? It actually needs to be more than BANT now. You need to add an S to the end of it. And what's the S? The S is, do I have a solution that's going to solve that problem for that particular customer? Because they're not really a prospect for you unless you've got a solution that's going to solve their problem. So by definition, what does that tell you? You have to know what that problem is. You have to be able to engage that customer in a discussion about what the problem is that you're going to be able to solve for them. Okay? But you at least need to walk into this whole process with an understanding of what are the problems that you've solved for customers in the past. You know what? Oftentimes I'll sit on phone calls with partners and I'll ask them the question. I'll say, okay, thinking about the last 4 implementations you did, can you name me 3 of the business problems that you solved for those customers, and what was the financial impact of solving that problem? Most partners, and don't feel bad about this, if you're thinking, oh, gee, if you ask me that question, I probably sit there in stunned silence because I don't know. Well, here's the thing. You're not Robinson Crusoe. Most partners don't know what the business pain points are that they solved. Or if they do, they certainly don't know what the financial impact was. Although, I must admit, in a previous session, I think it might have been Michael Lupro who said he solved a particular business pain problem for somebody which generated a 90% increase in revenue, I think it was. It was so huge. It was such a fundamental shift in the business. It was awesome. I mean, can you imagine if you had something that you could do that was that dynamic, that generated that much of an impact for a customer? Do you think there'd be other customers like them facing the same problem who might want to talk to you about how they're going to solve that problem? Good chance there are. But if you don't know what the problems are, then how are you ever going to fix them? Okay. So one more thing before we get on to our tactic du jour. What you need to do as part of this process is when you've worked out what this is, we need you to get to commit to a value proposition, a core message. What is it that makes you different? The answer to the question, which I always ask people, why should I buy from your organization? What is it that you're going to do for me that nobody else can? What is it that's unique about your product, your price, or your delivery of your product or service that's going to make me want to buy from you versus your competitor? Okay? So let me leave you with that particular thought in mind as we move into our tactic du jour. So tactic du jour is tactic of the day. So I know you're probably all sitting there going, well, that's all great, Richard. Thank you. All this talk about strategies and, well, I'm an action-oriented individual. Give me some value for turning up and participating in today's Marketing University. Well, hopefully I've delivered some value for you already by giving you a structure to think about your marketing activities. But many of you are right now sitting on top of fairly substantial existing customer bases. And you are sitting on top of an existing customer base where you have sold them a competing product. Let's call it a legacy product for want of a better term. Maybe it's Sage. Maybe it's Microsoft Dynamics. Maybe it's one of the Sage products that they acquired from, state of the art or whatever the case may be. Maybe it's an Infor product. And you're sitting there thinking, well, how do I get in front of these guys? How do I get in front of these customers and have a conversation with them about Acumatica, about the next step? And I know for many of you, let's be honest, many of you still have relationships which rely on, or you have businesses which rely on relationships with other vendors. So you want to be careful about going out there and starting to talk about Acumatica. So we had another partner who had this challenge. And what we did was we basically said, all right, let's go ahead and let's run a full day webinar. Sorry, not webinar, my apologies, a full day seminar. And we're going to break the day up into 3 sections. In the morning, let's invite in certified practicing accountants, CPAs from the area, and let's give them a briefing. Now, let's not give them a briefing on Acumatica. Let's not stand there and talk to them about a product. Let's not make it a product sales pitch. Let's make it educational, and let's talk about what the cloud is all about. And give them some examples of cloud-based applications, just as things that they can take away which help them understand what the cloud is. And one of those examples is a cloud-based enterprise resource planning solution called Acumatica. So you offer CPA or CPE credits, rather, continuing professional education credits. There's a way of doing this. You offer them CPE credits for coming along, and that will vary from state to state what are the requirements to do that. So you'll need to check into that with your local state body. But you give them CPE credits, maybe you provide them with breakfast or morning tea, and you educate them. You give them something of value, all right? Then you need to get a list of who those people are. You need to put together an invitation inviting them along to this educational session. You need to mail that out. You need to follow it up with phone calls. You need to mail them probably at least 2 or 3 times. In the last one of these we did, part of the challenge, I think, was we might have left it not necessarily too late, but we were starting from scratch. Many of these companies had not heard of us in the past, so it really would have required 6 or 7 touches to get them to come along to a seminar. All right. So again, there are ways and means of making this work effectively. What did we then do? Well, then we said, well, they've also got existing customers who are also wanting to know, well, what's this cloud thing all about? So we then, at the lunchtime space, we then ran a session for those existing customers and invited them to come in and learn about the cloud and learn about, again, same thing, but slightly different focus point than the CPAs. And we invited them in to come along and have lunch as well. They are the easiest people to get into a room. Why? Because they're people with whom you already have a trusted partner relationship. Then in the afternoon, we kept the afternoon open for white space, and we sent out to a white space list, prospective customer list, an invitation to come along and learn about Acumatica and learn about the cloud, learn about how they can start utilizing this technology to deliver a business benefit for them. So again, really a case of taking a one-day activity, breaking it up into 3 sections. Great idea. I'm sure you'll agree. Did it work? Well, some parts did, some parts didn't. What do you think was the most effective component? The most effective component, and the one that got the most traction, was existing customers. As a result of doing that activity with their existing customer base, this particular partner got 21 people signed up for the lunch. Of those 21, only 1 person dropped out the day before. And a 1 person out of 21, that's what's that? That's a 5% no-show, which is an incredible result. So again, what did we see? We saw that existing customers want to hear from you on a regular basis. So they're a great target to go out and start talking to about not necessarily Acumatica, but about the cloud and about cloud ERP, and helping them understand that when the time is right for them to make a move, that you have a solution for them. Okay? Just doing a quick time check. We've got 8 minutes left. So, next point, what didn't work? What didn't work effectively, or as effectively as we would have liked, is the CPA invitation in the morning. I think what we needed to do is we needed to do more engagement with the CPA firms before we could, in all honesty, expect them to come along and invest their time in an event. All right, so with those guys, because there was no existing relationship, we probably needed about another 3 or 4 touches. And by touch, I mean 3 or 4 interactions with them. Newsletters, white papers, them coming to our website, them going to a webinar, or something like that to build that know, like, and trust. Because if you think about it, when you're getting them to come along to a webinar, you're asking them to try, right? Know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, buy, refer. Webinars and seminars are the try part, right? That's where they're trying out you as an organization. Are you the kind of organization that they want to do business with? It's also about probably like and trust. They're going to like you if you provide information that's valuable, and they're going to trust you if you can prove to them that you've done this and delivered a result for other customers. So hopefully those are all part of what you deliver in your webinar or your seminar. But they're all important. But seminars are all about the try piece, giving them a chance to sample what it would be like to be a customer of yours. Okay. So that didn't work necessarily that well for the CPAs. We got a number of those CPAs, but they came along. We actually ended up incorporating them all into the lunchtime session. What didn't work at all was the white space in the afternoon. Why? We didn't have enough. We didn't have enough touches. We didn't send them out enough invitations. We didn't have, a series of 4 or 5 concrete steps which we executed week after week after week leading up to the event. So again, planning and a series of touches is very, very important. It's not just about sending them an invitation. If you build it, they will come. Well, you've got to make sure there's really strong, compelling value, and you've articulated it, because they're not always going to they're not always going to read the first email you send them. It's not always going to resonate. Maybe you need to contact them 3 or 4 times. So for me, that was a learning process. But the good news is this. From that event that we did, that partner on the day actually generated 4 really good prospects, people who said, come out and talk to me. The time's right for us to make a move. Okay? So that's the tactic du jour. What do we have to help you do this? Well, we have landing pages on the web. We have campaign materials that we can adapt for you. Depending on where your event is and when it's scheduled, we can send Acumatica people along to come and present. Might not necessarily be me, but certainly if we can work a way to make it happen, I'd be more than happy to come and present at your event. Could well be that the answer to this is not to do a seminar. The answer is to do a webinar. More than happy to help you out with those recorded or live webinars as well. So we have all the components in place. We have a structure, we have a strategy, we have some learnings, and we have some materials to execute the campaign. So if you're interested in running a campaign along those lines, please reach out to your channel partner manager. Again, this was the tactic du jour. We're always going to want to have a conversation with you about strategy anyway. But worst case scenario, if you just want some tactics, why not consider that one? So with that brings us to an end for today's session. Hopefully you found it valuable. I look forward to receiving your feedback. Again, you can reach me via my email address, and everybody by now knows, or hopefully by now you know, that my email address is rduffy@acumatica.com. And of course, you can reach me through social media. I'm like a plague on the internet. You can find me anywhere. Just search for Richard Duffy and Acumatica, and you'll be able to find me. And I look forward to having the opportunity to talk with you some more about some of these topics. And next week, we're going to continue on. And when we start next week, we're going to go through and we're going to give you some more tactics that you can execute that are going to help you make sure you're building the right strategy. So with that, thank you very much for joining. I hope you found today to be useful, and I look forward to seeing you again on the Marketing University in 1-2 weeks' time. And in the meantime, have a great day. I'll see some of you tomorrow at the Demo University, but for the rest of you, I'll see you again at our next Partner Marketing University. Thanks very much.